There is a man who moves through the world almost unnoticed at first, yet something about him lingers long after he passes. He does not announce himself. He does not seek attention yet. The air subtly rearranges when he enters a space. His journey has been quiet, disciplined, and deliberate, and the effects are beginning to surface in ways that cannot be ignored. Hold on, before we unlock the real power of semen retention, hit that subscribe button and join our Telegram channel. Link in description. We drop daily wisdom, success tools, and energy secrets only shared there. Don't watch from the sidelines, become part of the movement. This man once lived like most others, scattered, reactive, and constantly pulled outward by impulse and distraction. He gave away his energy without awareness, mistaking release for relief and stimulation for satisfaction over time. This left him fragmented, hollow, and restless, without understanding why. Then a decision was made, not dramatic, not public, but internal. He chose to stop leaking his life force into habits that drained him. He chose retention not as denial, but as redirection. And from that moment, a slow internal restructuring began. At first, the change was subtle. His body resisted. The familiar urges rose stronger than before, demanding escape. Yet he stayed present with the tension and learned that discomfort was not an enemy but a signal of stored power. Seeking refinement. As days passed, his posture shifted naturally. His spine lengthened as if guided upward by an unseen current. His shoulders relaxed while his stance grew grounded. The body remembered something ancient, something forgotten. Beneath years of unconscious release, his eyes changed. Next, the restless flicker softened into steady focus. There was less searching, less grasping, and more seeing. When he looked at others, he was no longer scanning for approval. He was simply present, and that presence carried weight. This weight was not heaviness, but density. His aura, once thin and porous, began to consolidate. People sensed it before understanding it. Conversations slowed around him, interruptions decreased, and his silence felt intentional rather than empty. Retention began to clarify his instincts. Desire no longer dragged him, it informed him. Energy once expelled was now circulating upward, feeding his mind, sharpening his attention, and igniting a sense of direction that had been absent. Which direction came purpose. He stopped drifting through days reacting to circumstances. Instead, he moved with intent. Each action felt aligned, as if guided from within rather than pulled from outside. As his inner architecture strengthened, the world responded differently. Strangers showed subtle respect without reason. Conversations carried more gravity, boundaries were acknowledged without explanation. His presence alone communicated certainty. This certainty did not come from dominance over others, but mastery over himself. Retention demanded discipline, and discipline built sovereignty. He became the ruler of his own impulses, his own attention, his own reactions. Each moment of restraint reinforced this inner throne. Every time he chose presence over escape, another stone was laid in his internal citadel. This kingdom was invisible yet unshakable. His mornings grew quieter and more focused. His work carried depth rather than urgency. Distractions lost their power because his energy was no longer scattered across meaningless stimuli. His voice changed as well. It deepened not only in tone, but in resonance. He spoke less, yet when he did, words landed firmly. Silence around him felt full rather than awkward. Communication became an extension of his inner state, calm, deliberate, and precise. He no longer filled space to be noticed, because his presence already occupied it. His aura began to resemble a crown, not worn but emanated, forged through patience, restraint, and inner fire. It was not decorative but functional, a symbol of self-command. The body reflected this sovereignty. His jaw relaxed into calm resolve. Facial expressions became composed, not masked. Emotion and power fused into one coherent signal. He was no longer ruled by anxiety or impulse. He felt deeply without spilling. Energy flowed smoothly, rather than erupting or collapsing. This internal regulation altered how others experienced him. Some felt drawn toward his calm authority, sensing stability and direction. Others felt unsettled, confronted by a mirror, reflecting their own lack of control. He no longer engaged in draining dynamics. He did not argue, chase, or explain unnecessarily. He stood firm and allowed the world to adjust around him. Mental clarity followed retention. His goals stabilized, no longer shifting with mood or distraction. His vision sharpened into something vivid, tangible, and compelling. He became a man, moving toward a future rather than escaping the present. Each step felt deliberate, aligned with values shaped through discipline. This transformation felt older than modern psychology. It resonated like an inherited memory, passed through generations of disciplined men who understood that true power came from what was held, not wasted. This code lay dormant within him, waiting for restraint to awaken. Retention unlocked this biological and energetic signature, reconnecting him to something primal yet refined. As this code activated, mediocrity became intolerable. He raised his standards, not out of arrogance, but respect for his own potential. He stopped compromising his essence. For convenience, creation, energy surged. Whether in work, relationships, or vision, he carried the force of building rather than consuming. His life became an act of deliberate creation. Women sensed this shift immediately. Not through words or appearance, but through presence, his aura carried grounded masculine polarity that felt safe yet charged. He did not chase attraction, he did not seek validation. Desire responded to him naturally because he was no longer leaking need. His retention transformed sexual energy into depth. Eye contact intensified. Touch slowed, connection deepened, because energy circulated rather than escaped. Women felt met rather than consumed, held rather than pursued. His presence invited rather than pressured, and desire unfolded organically. Retention is the absolute demand for focus, requiring that you seize that scattered energy and direct it with unwavering force toward a higher ideal. Without this clear direction, your raw energy will perpetually betray you, seeking the easiest outlet and the path of least resistance. In the trajectory of every man's life, there must come a horrifying realization that lust is not just a small vice, but a monumental destroyer of destiny. It is the relentless thief of physical vitality, mental discipline, and spiritual power that leaves a man bankrupt of his own potential. Each time a man indulges in the vice of unmastered desire, his entire nervous system registers the shock of the surrender. His authentic confidence dulls, his motivation evaporates into thin air, and his capacity for pursuing difficult greatness diminishes until it is gone. He becomes grounded not in his inherent, dominant masculinity, but in the chaotic and unpredictable whim of his momentary, animalistic impulses. Yet, it is utterly insufficient to merely resist or suppress these urges. You cannot simply cage raw energy and expect it to remain docile within the confines of your mind. Energy must be fundamentally transformed and transmuted into a higher state of being. The strong man, the alchemist of his own soul, refines and elevates his energy through acts of disciplined, focused creation that serve a purpose beyond himself. The difference between the slave and the king rests entirely within the decision-making furnace of the mind. The same life-giving essence that can drain one man into a state of lethargy can electrify another into a state of genius, all depending on the direction of the channel. True retention necessitates a heightened, almost painful awareness of every internal craving that attempts to seduce you. This aura was not mystical, it was physiological and energetic coherence made visible. Retention aligned his nervous system, body, and intention into one signal. In a world addicted to stimulation, his calm became rare in a culture of noise. His silence became loud. He stood like an oak, rooted deeply unmoved by passing storms because his strength came from internal control rather than external approval. Trust formed quickly around him, boundaries were respected, naturally because they were felt, not enforced. He no longer needed to prove himself, his consistency was proof, his integrity was visible in how he moved, spoke, and chose. Retention sharpened leadership within him, not dominance but direction. Others sensed it and followed without coercion. This leadership extended inward. First, he led his impulses, emotions, and desires rather than being led by them. Over time, his life reorganized itself around this center. Opportunities aligned, relationships refined, and distractions fell away. The aura he carried was simply the glow of mastery, discipline over impulse, sovereignty over chaos, presence over performance. If this video gave you real value, tap the thanks button. Your support helps me keep creating deeper content like this. Every thanks is a spark that keeps this mission alive. Your support means more than you know. This power could not be borrowed, learned, or mimicked. It was earned quietly through daily restraint and inner work. The code was never external. It awakened from within when he chose containment over convenience. And once awakened, it reshaped not only how he saw himself, but how the world responded to him. He became a man who did not ask for permission to exist. Fully he walked forward carrying an invisible crown forged in silence.